You've just been handed the keys to a thriving company. Sales are soaring, profits are up, shareholders are thrilled. Then the calls start flooding in, employees demanding better conditions, environmental groups furious, customers expecting new green packaging, and the government, new, stricter regulations, all at once. Meanwhile, those happy shareholders still want more. How do you possibly lead a company when every single one of your stakeholders is pulling in a different direction?
That scenario, Henry, is precisely the challenge facing modern CEOs. It's not a hypothetical for long, it's the daily reality. We've been exploring various facets of business and society, from ethics to sustainability, and what this situation highlights is that these aren't isolated topics. They're deeply interconnected, converging on the desk of every leader.
It feels overwhelming just describing it. Years ago, the focus felt so much narrower, almost exclusively on the bottom line. But now, it's like leaders are expected to be experts in everything from social justice to ecological impact. How did we get here, and what does it demand from someone in charge?
The shift has been gradual but profound. Historically, business success was indeed measured almost entirely by financial performance. If profits increased, if shareholder value went up, it was considered a win. But society has evolved. Stakeholders, and that term itself has gained immense traction, now demand more. Employees want purpose, customers want transparency, investors want ethical practices, and communities expect genuine engagement. What this scenario immediately highlights is that leadership today isn't about solving one problem. It's about navigating a multi-dimensional challenge, requiring a much broader skill set than just financial acumen.
So it's not just about what a CEO can do financially, but what they should do across a whole spectrum of issues. It sounds like the very definition of success has been completely rewritten.
Exactly. The old adage, the business of business is business, meaning pure profit, no longer holds sway universally. Today, organizations are evaluated much more broadly. Customers aren't just buying products, they're buying into values. Investors aren't just looking at quarterly reports, they're assessing long-term risks, including environmental and social governance. Governments are increasingly setting stricter boundaries. Even employees are making career choices based on a company's social impact.
That's a huge shift in perspective. So if financial knowledge isn't enough, what are these new essential skills for leaders?
It's about ethical judgment, social awareness, environmental responsibility, and strategic thinking that integrates all these elements. And, critically, strong communication skills to articulate how these diverse interests are being managed. This really crystallizes how the definition of success in business has fundamentally changed. It's no longer a unidimensional scorecard. It's a complex balance sheet of financial, social, and environmental capital.
It implies a constant juggling act where every decision has ripples across different groups, which leads us directly to the idea of ethics, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Ethics helps businesses determine what they should do, not just what they are legally allowed to do. Think about that scenario we discussed earlier. Your company discovers a supplier violating labor standards. Changing suppliers may temporarily increase production costs, impacting your bottom line in the short term. Keeping the current supplier might improve short-term profits. A purely financial decision might favor keeping the supplier.
And that's where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Because in a tight spot, with shareholders breathing down your neck, that temporary cost increase could feel like a very real threat to the business.
It's a genuine tension, Henry, but an ethical leader considers a broader range of consequences. How would employees feel working for a company that condones such practices? How would customers react if this information became public? Could investors lose confidence in the company's stated values? What about the potential reputational damage? Notice how stakeholder management immediately becomes part of ethical decision-making. Responsible leaders rarely evaluate decisions from only one perspective.
So it's about looking past the immediate financial impact to the wider, longer-term effects on every group connected to the business. That makes a lot of sense, but it still sounds like a tough call to make when the numbers are staring you in the face.
It is, but it's a necessary one. What we're seeing here is how ethics isn't an abstract concept, but a very practical lens through which all business decisions must now pass. It forces leaders to weigh values against immediate gains, and often that initial cost of doing the right thing pays dividends in trust and reputation down the line. It's a fundamental shift from simply, can we do this legally, to should we do this, considering all impacts.
That's a clear distinction. So if we take that idea of ethical decision-making and broaden it, does that bring us directly to corporate social responsibility?
It absolutely does. CSR encourages businesses to think beyond their immediate financial performance, embracing a wider scope of influence. Responsible organizations recognize that they impact society daily through their products, services, employment practices, environmental footprint, and community involvement. This influence creates a profound responsibility. It's about moving from a reactive stance, addressing problems after they arise, to a proactive one, where responsibility is integrated into the very fabric of operations.
So it's not just about doing good deeds on the side, but embedding it into the business model itself, like those examples we've discussed before.
Precisely. Companies like Blue Skies Ghana, for instance, demonstrate how business growth can simultaneously support farmers, employees, local communities, and international customers, or Casa Preco PLC, illustrating how investments in renewable energy and responsible waste management contribute not only to sustainability, but also to stronger long-term business performance. Neither company treats responsibility as an afterthought. It's integral.
Those examples make it sound less like a burden and more like a smart way to do business. Are these becoming the norm, or are they still the exceptions?
They're becoming increasingly common, Henry, because the market and regulatory pressures are pushing in that direction. Consumers are more aware, investors are more discerning, and employees are seeking purpose. So if ethics provides the framework for how we decide, then CSR really defines what our ongoing responsibility looks like in action. It's about building a business that intrinsically contributes positively, rather than trying to patch up negative impacts later.
That makes sense. It's a proactive approach. And it makes me think about starting a business, which many of our listeners might do. If you're building something from the ground up, how do you infuse this kind of responsibility from day one?
That's a critical question. Imagine you're starting your own business, a tech company, a transport company, or online retail. What kind of organization would you want to build? Would your sole focus be on making as much money as possible, or would you aim to create a company employees are proud of, customers trust, communities welcome, and investors respect? The choices you make from the very beginning shape your organization's culture.
Culture. That's a concept that often feels abstract, but you're saying it's central to responsible business.
Absolutely. Culture is often described as the way we do things around here. It dictates how employees behave when managers aren't watching. It shapes customer experiences, affects innovation, and determines how the organization responds during difficult times. Strong ethical cultures don't appear overnight. They develop gradually through consistent leadership, clear expectations, accountability, and everyday behavior. At its core, this is about understanding that a business isn't just a collection of transactions. It's a living entity with its own personality or culture.
So leaders aren't just setting policies, they're modeling behavior. Their actions speak louder than any mission statement.
Precisely. Employees watch what leaders do far more closely than what leaders say. If leaders encourage honesty but manipulate financial reports, employees notice. If they promote teamwork but reward selfish behavior, employees notice. If they speak about sustainability but ignore environmental responsibilities, employees notice. Leadership is demonstrated through actions, not just speeches. Building an ethical culture is one of the most powerful forms of responsible leadership.
That sounds incredibly challenging, especially for a startup or a new leader trying to establish their vision under immense pressure. It's hard enough just getting the product out the door.
It is, and that's a valid point. But the beauty of this framework is that responsible business isn't limited to large multinational corporations. Sometimes people assume only companies with thousands of employees can practice corporate social responsibility. That isn't true. Even a small family-owned business can operate responsibly. Think of a local restaurant.
Like a small diner. How does a diner practice CSR?
The owner purchases ingredients from nearby farmers, supporting the local economy, pays employees fairly, offering good working conditions, actively reduces food waste through smart inventory or donations, treats customers with respect, building loyalty, supports local community events, operates honestly in all its dealings. Although the business may be relatively small, it still contributes positively to society. Responsibility depends more on values than on company size. This really broadens our understanding, showing that responsible business isn't about the size of your balance sheet, but the values driving your operations.
That's encouraging, especially for entrepreneurs, but for a small business owner, perhaps just trying to make ends meet, isn't taking on all these responsibilities just another burden, another cost? It feels like an added layer of complexity when simply staying afloat is already hard enough.
That's a very real concern, and it highlights the tension between ideal and practical constraints. However, many of these responsible actions, like reducing waste or building strong community ties, often lead to efficiencies or enhanced customer loyalty that support the business long term. It's not always an immediate cost, it can be an investment. And ultimately, whether your business employs 5 people or 5,000, the principles of treating people fairly, respecting the environment, and contributing positively remain relevant.
So it's about seeing these not as separate, optional add-ons, but as integral parts of a healthy, sustainable business. It reminds me that no business exists in a vacuum.
Exactly. Businesses don't exist in isolation. Governments influence businesses through laws and policies. Consumers influence businesses through purchasing decisions. Employees influence businesses through their performance and ideas. Communities influence businesses through public opinion. Investors influence businesses through financial support. At the same time, businesses influence all of these groups through their products, services, employment, and environmental impact. This relationship explains why our course is called Business and Society. Neither can fully understand one without understanding the other.
It's a constant feedback loop then, a dynamic equilibrium. What happens when that balance breaks down, when a business ignores one of these influencing factors?
That's where the real risks emerge. One of the greatest changes in modern business has been the recognition that long-term success depends on creating value for multiple stakeholders, rather than maximizing short-term profits alone. Businesses that ignore ethics may experience scandals. Those that ignore employees may struggle with high staff turnover. Businesses that ignore customers may lose market share. Those that ignore environmental issues may face increasing regulatory pressure and reputational damage. Businesses that ignore communities may lose their social license to operate entirely. What this complex web truly means is that understanding business without society or society without business is an incomplete picture. You neglect these connections at your peril.
So the consequences of ignoring these stakeholders are not just ethical or social, they're intensely practical business risks. And conversely, if you do engage responsibly, there must be advantages.
Absolutely. On the other hand, organizations that build trust often enjoy stronger customer loyalty, more motivated employees, greater investor confidence, and better long-term performance. Trust, therefore, becomes a competitive advantage that competitors cannot easily copy. It's an intangible asset, but one with very tangible benefits. So if the business-society relationship is interdependent, then trust emerges as the currency of that relationship, determining long-term viability.
That's a powerful idea, trust as a competitive advantage. But is it always a direct equation? Does doing good always directly translate to doing well financially? Or are there still moments where profit and responsibility are genuinely at odds, forcing a difficult choice?
That's the fundamental tension many leaders grapple with, Henry. The perception that profit and responsibility are enemies is a persistent one. But what we've seen throughout our discussions is that when managed wisely, they can strengthen one another. It's not about sacrificing one for the other, it's about integrating them. The most respected business leaders throughout history have generally pursued both objectives, understanding that genuine, sustainable success comes from creating value for all stakeholders, not just shareholders. It's about looking at the business as a whole, not just one slice of the pie.
So it's not a zero-sum game, but a more complex, synergistic relationship. But can we truly say that in every single business decision, there's a path where both profit and responsibility are perfectly aligned? There must be situations where a genuine trade-off is required.
There are certainly tough choices, and I won't pretend they don't exist, but the shift in mindset is key. Instead of seeing responsibility as a constraint on profit, leaders are learning to see how responsible practices can actually drive innovation, reduce long-term risks, and build the kind of brand loyalty that secures future profitability. Ultimately, this brings us back to the core idea that the most profound business success isn't about choosing one goal over another, but harmonizing them, seeking solutions where both purpose and profit can thrive.
It's about seeing the bigger picture. Business isn't just about transactions. It's about people and impact.
Exactly. Every product is created by people. Every service is delivered to people. Every organization exists within society. Understanding those relationships is what transforms good managers into truly exceptional leaders. It's about building organizations that not only achieve financial targets, but also enrich the lives of employees, delight customers, contribute to communities, and protect our shared environment. It's about leaving a legacy beyond the balance sheet.
That's a powerful way to frame it, Sophia. It moves beyond just the what of business to the why and the how in a really profound way. It's not just about making money, it's about the kind of world we're building through our enterprises.
And that, Henry, is perhaps the single most important lesson from our discussions. Business is ultimately about people. It's about recognizing the immense power and responsibility that comes with leadership and choosing to wield it not just for personal gain, but for the collective good. The most successful organizations are not simply those that generate the highest profits, but those that create lasting value for everyone they serve.
A fantastic way to bring all these threads together. Thank you for this insightful conversation, Sophia.
My pleasure, Henry.
This discussion has been a deep dive into what responsible business leadership looks like in the 21st century, drawing on insights from the Business and Society course material. We've explored how all these concepts, from ethics to sustainability, are interconnected and crucial for any leader today.
And remember, these principles apply whether you're leading a multinational corporation or a small local business. It's about the values you embed and the impact you choose to make.
If this episode resonated with you, consider sharing it with a colleague or friend who might benefit from these insights into modern leadership.